Hi there, and thanks for joining me. Today we're going to continue in our education of steel project management. Specifically, we'll be discussing contracts. Now, perhaps no other project document is harder to understand or more important to your success. So today we're going to take a look at what it is that you need to know, so stay tuned. Each contract with each contractor on each job can look quite different one from another, which can make it difficult to have consistent and familiar terms contained within each one, which should be your goal. And you don't want to have a wide variance of terms within your executed contracts because the ones that are outliers or those that are inconsistent with your company's standards are the ones that will burn you. However, each project's type, source, and procurement method can have a substantial impact on the structure of the contract that you receive. Take, for example, if you work in the public contracting arena versus on jobs that are privately owned and funded, well, that can change the rules of the game significantly, but we're going to discuss that in a minute. Furthermore, if you work on design build or fast-tracked projects, your contract might include monetary incentives to hitting certain milestones or early delivery dates. They can also contain much heavier punitive damages for failing to do so. But with greater risk comes greater reward. In any event, the goal of every contractor should be to produce replicable, favorable, and amicable terms on each contract that you sign. So today, we're going to discuss first a few key points that I recommend you take a close look at on each contract that you receive. Next, we will discuss MSAs and what those are. And then we will close with talking about the primacy of your proposal and what that means for you. Now, it's safe to say that there's more than just a few items within your contract that you should take a close look at. But for the sake of time, today I've selected only a few items that we're going to discuss. Now, because general contractors have the same goal of trying to replicate favorable terms within their contracts, and they have many more to write than we do, they tend to use standard subcontract forms. And the problem with these boilerplate documents is they tend to have terms and conditions within them that don't accurately represent the process of steel construction. And one that always stands out to me is stipulations for material payments. Now, commonly, a proposed subcontract agreement will state something to the effect that a subcontractor is not entitled to payment or reimbursement for materials until it's present on the job site. Now, for all other trades, that's not a problem because their place of work is on the job site. But in the case of miscellaneous or structural steel, at least half the process is fabrication, which takes place at a different location. And you want to make sure that you have money to pay your suppliers when you receive the materials. So conveniently, the AISC, or the American Institute of Steel Construction, has something to say about that. And their code 303, which is the code of standard practice for steel buildings and bridges. In section 9, which is contracts, under subsection 9.6, terms of payment, it states that the fabricator shall be paid for mill materials and fabricated product that is stored off of the job site. And this is important to know because this document bears more weight than your opinion does in negotiating favorable material payment terms. And next, I want to talk about schedule. Now, we spent all of last week taking a look at how to develop and then coordinate a project schedule, and you want to make sure that those efforts get recognized. Commonly, a proposed subcontract agreement will have comments or statements in it that read like the following. The prime contractor shall have complete control of the premises on which the project is to be completed, and shall have the undisputed right to decide the time and order in which various portions of work shall be installed, and the relative priority of the subcontractor's work, and all other matters pertaining to the timely and orderly conduct of the subcontractor's work on the project premises. The subcontractor shall conform to the prime contractor's progress schedule in all revisions or changes made thereto. In the event that the subcontractor fails to maintain the prime contractor's progress schedule for the subcontractor's work, he shall, without additional compensation, accelerate the work as prime contractor may direct until the subcontractor is in compliance with such schedule. Now, what do we do about this? I suggest that you propose a revised statement within that contract that recognizes at least your equal authority in determining what the project schedule is going to be. Compiling a project schedule should be a bipartisan effort. You want to make sure that you have a seat at that table and meet the general contractor halfway in making that happen. But negotiating terms like this can be exhausting if you have to do it multiple times over. So let's take a look at MSAs. Welcome back. And next we're going to discuss master subcontract agreements. Now, if there's contractors that you do work either with or for on a regular basis, then you might benefit by having an MSA in effect with them, as opposed to negotiating contracts on every single project. As you might have concluded, an MSA will outline the conditions and working relationship between the two parties on all projects moving forward, meaning that you can be hired or do hiring based off of just price and scope of work, because it's already resolved your terms and conditions. Now, MSAs are usually in effect for a period of either 5 or 10 years, but they can also be indefinite, meaning that until one of the two parties is either dissolved or restructures or changes ownership, you're not getting out of it. So you want to make sure that you negotiate it right the first time. Additionally, an MSA might somewhat disrupt the primacy of your proposal, which may not work to your advantage. So let's take a look at what that is and what that means for you. When I say the primacy of your proposal, I'm referring to the fact that your bid proposal is a contract document. And in fact, it's your company's initial contract offer on that job, so long as it contains your price, scope of work, and terms and conditions. These three things tell your employer all the information they need to know to decide whether or not to hire you on that job. And that's important because if they express an intent to do so, then your proposal now becomes the inherent contract until you supersede it with an executed subcontract agreement. Now, where and how a general contractor can express this intent can look different based off whether you're doing public works or private contracting. In public works, it's required by state law, and it's a part of the general contractor's bid qualification that they list the second-tier subcontractors that are apportioned to their bid. And if your company's listed on a public works bid form and that general contractor is awarded the job, you now have a reasonable expectation to be awarded that project for the scope of work that you bid based off your proposal. However, private contractors are not required to list their subcontractors. But if they do send you a letter of intent or even a notice to proceed, they have now demonstrated their intent to use you on that project based off of your bid proposal. And that's important because this demonstration of intent establishes what's known as a promissory estoppel, which means that you and your company now have a reasonable expectation to perform that project and generate the residual benefit of doing so, which is your profit margin. So if the general contractors try and terminate you for convenience or withhold payments from you because you won't sign their subcontract agreement, you can sue them for the anticipated profit on that job because they've established that promissory estoppel. See, knowing the purpose and the power of your contract documents is important to managing your job well, and I want to see to it that you do. Thanks for tuning in today. If you enjoyed this video, then be sure to give it a thumbs up, and then check out our website where you can subscribe to receive videos like this every single week, bringing you only the best in steel construction education. And while you're there, be sure to check out our list of courses, providing you a deeper and more intensive study on topics just like this one. You see, here at the SBC Group, it's our mission to help you know the most so that you can do your best. And finally, if you should have any questions or concerns about where you're going to spend eternity and you don't have a personal relationship relationship with Jesus Christ, feel free to reach out to me and I'll be glad to help you with that too. Thank you and God bless.